video. Today we're going to continue my series on snowbird schedule. Where should you camp and at what time of the year? And where can you meet other people? Because that's a question I get a lot. Bob, I'm just starting out. I'd like to travel with people. Where can I meet some others? So if this is the schedule we're following, if you get in that schedule, then you are pretty likely to run into some people. The main way to contact other people in the tribe as they're traveling is to join my forum. On the picture at the top of my YouTube channel, that page, there is a button on the bottom right of the picture. Click on that and you go to the forum. And when you get there, introduce yourself and then do a post that says, I'm wanting to join people wherever you are. I'd like to join you wherever you are. And they'll respond and tell you where you are and you can join them. Okay, so we've talked already about how to find a campsite, and we've talked about going up and down in elevation instead of north-south. And so today, and then we've also talked about winter, where we're going to camp in winter. So we're going to continue with the series and with where to go in the spring. So this is the spring camping video. As we've said, the thing you do is you go up and down in elevation. So if you're down in elevation, down in the desert, which is where I recommend nearly all of you be, is down in the desert over winter. It's about as warm and as good a place as you can be. Big desert, you can be in California and Arizona, but by March, it's getting hot. I mean, March is in the 90s. It's going to be in the 90s in early March. By the end of March, it'll be upper 90s, or in April, it'll be pushing hundreds. May, you'll be over 100. So the desert gets really hot and you have to leave early. Now, those are called the shoulder seasons. There's spring and fall, and they kind of are the shoulders that hold up winter and summer. So both those times are awkward and difficult. The desert is too hot to stay in it. So you're not going to stay in the desert in the spring. The shoulder seasons are hard because they're either too hot or too cold, and you have to move. So if you're up in the national forest in the fall, it's too cold, you have to go. But the desert's still too hot. And in spring, which we're talking about, it's too hot in the desert, but it's still too cold in the national forest. If you go up to any national forest out west in March, you're looking at snow and real serious cold and real serious snow. I'll give you an example. I left Quartzsite, which is where I spent a lot of my winters, and went to Pahrump, which is at 2,500 feet. Quartzsite is down about 400. So I went up in elevation and it was too cold. I got there and it snowed. I left there March 1st. Quartzsite was about, it was probably in the high 80s, hitting 90s, into the low 90s. And that was really too hot. So I left, went to Pahrump, and I got snowed on. Now that was not the norm, but that's the point. When you go up in elevation, you start running into greater risk of cold. You're too hot here, but too cold here. So what you got to do is find that middle ground. That's the bottom line. You're looking at low, middle, and high elevations. Low in the winter, middle in the spring and the shoulder, and high in the summer. So that's the whole trick to the nomadic schedule. Low in the winter, middle, spring and fall, high in the summer. And I've told you in another video about how you can find elevations and how you can find campsites, so I won't go through that again. Now I'll just give you some examples of if you're staying low in the desert in the winter, where do you go in the spring? If you're probably going to be, like I've said, along the strip of the Colorado River. That's where most of us go. So we're going to look for places that are fairly close to that strip along the Colorado River on the California and Arizona border. That's the border between California and Arizona. So anywhere from Yuma, Quartzsite, Parker, Lake Havasu, Needles, Bullhead City, Kingman. That's the strip most of us are going to be in the winter. Well, the next step up, and that's all going to be not very high. Some of it's going to be, Yuma's around sea level. So that's very low, and that's why it's the warmest of all those places, warmest place in Arizona. Or Slab City, which is over in California, as the warmest places, and I believe it's actually below sea level, or right at sea level, I'm not exactly sure. So you're at sea level, and you want to get up to at least 3,000 feet. So if this is somewhere around sea level, less than 1,000 feet, then the middle, spring and fall, is 3,000 to 5,000 feet. That's what you're looking for. Now let me tell you where those places could be. Starting in Arizona, it could be over in the southeast area of Arizona. That includes Tombstone and Bisbee. That area is about 3,000 feet and going up. It's getting to be high desert. High desert is going to be cooler. If you can go up 3,000 feet, and that is going to cool you off by 10 to 12 degrees. So if it's right at 90 in Quartzsite, it will be around 80 at Tombstone Bisbee. That's nice. So maybe you'd go over there and explore. It's a beautiful area, lots of BLM land to camp in. Another place you might go is up to Sedona Cottonwood. It's also at about 3,000 feet, and Sedona is one of the most beautiful places in the world. There's lots of camping there. A lot of people go, that's the most common. If you said to me, where am I most likely to find people in the spring, I would say Cottonwood, Sedona. They're about 20 miles apart. I just think of them as one place. And that's what a lot of people do. They camp, it's two different national forests, and you camp in the Coconino National Forest in Sedona for 2 weeks. Then you go over to the Prescott National Forest in Cottonwood for 2 weeks, and then you go back and forth. So you move every 2 weeks and you stay legal. So that's why Sedona is one of the most beautiful places in the world. People travel from all over the world to see Sedona. Because of that, it's a tourist trap, but it's still incredibly beautiful. And you just stay out of the tourist trap as much as you can. Cottonwood has full shopping, has good internet, has my camp in Cottonwood is within 4 miles of the front door of a Walmart. I mean, it is a great place to camp. I love camping in Cottonwood and Sedona and going back and forth. So that's a really great place. And then in Arizona, another place is Prescott. Prescott is at 5,000 feet, going up to in areas around it where you can camp at about 6. That's still going to be cold. There will be cold weather in March and April. Real chance of snow in April, of showers. One of the things you have to be aware of in all of the desert country, on high desert countries, Tombstone, that high desert, or Pahrump, that high desert, Pahrump, Nevada, that's another place we'll talk about, is going over to Nevada. Lots of good places there. One of the things is when they get wet, they become impassable. So that's something to watch really closely for. If you hear it doesn't rain very often, but when it does rain, you want to be prepared to sit it out and wait for the road to dry. That's a big issue in Prescott. The roads there are impassable. You get a serious storm go through, you may not get out again. So go in ready to stay there for a long time. So Prescott is another one. I have camped in March and April in Prescott, and it was cold. But that's okay. I'd rather be a little on the cold side. I haven't had snow myself there, but I do know people who have. Up because you can get up to around 6,000 feet and you can stay there until May, and in May you're going to move up into the higher country. We're going to call that summer, and so that will be in the next video, but an example would be you could go to Flagstaff, which is only 50 miles away. So that's where you'll be going from Arizona, Prescott, Cottonwood, Sedona, and down in the Tombstone, Bisbee area. All great places in the fall. Another great place just on the other side of that is New Mexico. Now, we've talked at length about the New Mexico Park Pass, which I highly recommend. And a lot of their state parks are at 3,000, 4,000, 5,000, and then up to 7,000 or 8,000. So you can move around in New Mexico in March, spring, summer, and fall really well. Winter, it gets a little too cold. I'd come to Arizona in winter. But in the spring, New Mexico is a great place. So you could go over from Quartzsite to Tombstone Bisbee area, and then from the Tombstone Bisbee area right over the City of Rocks. I have a video about City of Rocks State Park in New Mexico. That is also a really beautiful place and a good camping. You can stay there for the 2 weeks with your state parks pass, or lots of BLM land around there. Most of the National Forest land is higher and risky of being cold. Normally, you're going to be on BLM land in spring. The exception is Cottonwood, Sedona, where you'll be in National Forest. But most of the time you want to be on BLM land. That's what is Tombstone Bisbee, BLM land. So there's an idea. Now let's talk about California. There's a good one there too. In California, you can go up to Victorville, which is at about 2,000 feet, 3,000, 2,500. And that will be a little cooler, but it will still be windy. That's been my problem with Victorville, is the wind blows horrendously, especially in the spring. One of the best places is Lake Isabella. It's very busy. That's the problem with it. I think it's no more than 3,000 to 5,000. It's in our range. And then you get up into the Sierras, and then you get into cold. It'll be too cold in most of the Sierras. You'll have to wait for summer. Great place to spend the summer, not good for the spring. And then there's 395 up the east side of the Sierras, Lone Pine. That's at about 4,000, 4,500. That's getting to be a little cool, but you can be there in March and April, and maybe a little cool, but it's still okay. Much beyond, higher than that, you go up to Bishop, and then you're up at 6 and 7, and you're going to be in cold and looking at snow in the spring. So that's not where you want to go. Pahrump is at 2,500 feet, so it is a good spring visit. A little bit windy then. It can be very windy, get big windstorms, and it can be cold kind of late. It can be cold into March. But I'd rather be a little cold in March than 90, 95, 100 down in Arizona in the desert or Slab City. So I would say there is a good choice. Pahrump is a very good choice. I spent a lot of springs. There's also the areas around Lake Mead. Some of those may be warm enough. I've never camped there. Too many people. I don't go where there are a lot of people. So I've never camped there, but that's something to look into. There's lots of camping around Lake Mead. And that's probably around 2,500 feet also, which would be cool. Cooler than the quartzite, but may not be cool enough, and I don't know how long you'll want to stay there. Lots of good camping there, north of the lake and then Las Vegas and south and around the lake. So there you have it. There's ideas of what you'll be doing in the spring. Of all of them, the most popular would be Cottonwood, Sedona. There will be a bunch of us there March, April, and maybe into May. In May, we'll be moving up to Flagstaff, where it will be just about perfect weather. But that's the most popular place. Some people will ride out the desert. They will stay there until March, April, and even to May. I can't imagine that. By May, you're looking at well into the hundreds, triple digits. And that's too hot for me. But there are people that do it. And if you get your rig set up right with shade cloth and fans, you can stay there. Well, it's pretty hot, but too hot for me, and I don't do it. So that's the spring, and I will quit there. And the next we will talk about summer. Summer is high country. You're going to go up into high country. You want to be above 6,000. 6,000 is the minimum to be comfortable. 7,000 is better. 8 and 9 and 10. 10 is best. This is, I'm just outside of Leadville, Colorado. This is Half Moon Creek. Leadville is not even 10 miles over there. And I'm at 10,400 feet. At 2 miles, this would be a great place in the summer. You wouldn't be here in the spring. You'd be looking at winter. It'd still be winter. Snow at any time, real serious cold at any time. Okay, so I'll stop there. Thanks for watching this video. I hope you got something out of it. Until next time, like us on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, and remember, if you don't get anything out of anything I ever say out of any of my videos, remember this. You can have the life of your dreams. Don't settle for less. Grab it. Insist on it. Maybe you can't make the whole enchilada leap of faith. Take little bits of it. Maybe buy a minivan and take little trips. Figure out a way to camp out of your car and go camping. So grab the life of your dreams. Don't settle for less. And it doesn't have to be all or nothing. There can be a halfway point where you just take your life you have now and make it as minimal and as nomadic as you can. There are ways to do that. And I'll be having a video series about that coming up. Okay, until next time, we'll talk to you later.